Hey everybody, welcome to the Luthiers podcast. I'm Paul Rhoney. Today on the show is my interview with Derek from Lincoln Guitars. Derek is somebody that I've been wanting to get on the show for a while now. I'm a big fan of his work, have been for many years now, and he's somebody that I've kind of been tangential to for a while and just really wanted to connect with, and so I'm really glad that we're finally able to make this happen. Dare I say, we're buds now. I think we're gonna hang out and I'm gonna go to Austin and we're gonna get a barbecue or something. I don't know. I'm just saying, that's like that could happen. Maybe. I mean, we'll see. Hey, weirder things have happened. But before I get to that, I just want to mention again, if you have questions for us to answer on future episodes of the show, as usual, you can email them to us at theluthierist@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group that you can join. Just search The Luthierist on Facebook, search at The Luthierist on Twitter and Instagram to find us there and, connect any way you'd like to via the social medias. And also, if you'd like to be a supporter of the show, there is a link for that in the podcast description. You can become a patron of the show for as little as $1 a month and show us that you want to keep hearing the show. So thanks again, and here's our interview with Derek from Lincoln Guitars.
How'd you break your arm, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it was a moped accident.
Nice.
Yeah, super wicked. I was going like a hot 2 miles an hour around a corner.
Nice.
Totally
Nice.
Just went down.
Right, what kind of a moped was it?
Dude, it was a Honda Spree.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah. Pretty hardcore. I know. I'm definitely, definitely a hardcore dude on my big wheels.
I had a Gorelli for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was, and I think I got hurt more on that than anything else.
I believe it, man. I've heard a lot of people say, just the geometry of the mopeds is it's a little trickier,
Right.
But I'm gonna go take proper lessons and everything. I'm new to riding, so.
Right.
I'm gonna take proper lessons and go get a bunch of safety gear and look like a Power Ranger on the road, but at least I'll be safe, or safe as one can be on a death machine.
I mean, it's sort of weather permitting there to be a Power Ranger.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's uncomfortably warm here to do anything.
Yeah.
9 to 10 months a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, here it's ridiculously wet.
Yeah.
For most of the year, so it's kind of you're limited to only a few summer months of actually getting out and joining forces with the other Power Rangers. But yeah. In the meantime, wet weather. So yeah, man. So for some reason, it just in my brain, the first question I want to ask, because you're obviously busy, you've obviously got quite a life going. It took us a while to connect here to make this happen.
Yeah.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
It's not the best schedule in the world. It's
okay.
Like I was saying, I have a 3-year-old, so it's sort of and my wife works full time. So basically she's gone 9 to 5 and I'm with the kid, and then we sort of high five, and then I go to work all night and do a lot of that. So it's and it's usually about 6:30 to about 2 in the morning, and then do it all over again.
Yeah.
And kind of do that as long as I can, and then have a little, once every 2 weeks, actually take a day off.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so the
family it's
family things.
Yeah, but it's basically mad scientist hours. It's not
right.
It's not great.
Yeah. How does that work with neighbors and stuff? I mean, are you you're working in your garage as residential, or do you have a shop that's in a commercial space you can go all hours?
We sort of have a co-op-ish thing. There's 4 people in a commercial space that we're renting. It's
cool.
Myself, Matt from Needham Guitars, our friend Greg, who mostly does repairs, and then Paul, who builds effects pedals under the name Gremlin. So, and it was kind of the only way that we could all sort of have a big enough space and put all of our stuff. But I worked for the first year. It was basically I was building guitars. Um, it wasn't even a proper shop. It was this like separated from the house, basically like a laundry room,
Mm-hmm.
and I had like 80 square feet of space.
Wow.
And anytime I wanted to do like use a table router, I would have to like pack up the spindle sander or move the table saw,
Totally.
um, which makes it, not particularly efficient. And on top of that, like the washer and dryer were there, which it became, surfaces to do things. But
Mm-hmm.
Matt was always calling it like Lutheria de Lavanderia whenever he would come by and laugh at my space. But it's nice to be out of there. And all the paint work was done. I built a paint booth in a friend's shop, and sort of would just drive across town in the middle of the night to paint.
Do you still do that now, or is your paint booth like inside?
The paint booth's inside right now. We have kind of like a stopgap one, which has been working out, but we've been, um, you know how it is when you like renovate a space. It's like everything has to stop because of all the drywalling,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it's just like this constant shuffle of, like this room is done. Now we can use the tools, but still waiting on the paint booth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I'd say it's like 80% like a completely working shop.
Yeah. So you're not painting in there now, but you'll be painting in there soon.
Oh no, I'm painting. It's just
Oh.
we built one and then we're gonna tear it down and move it into the what's sort of partitioned off is going to be the new paint booth.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a pretty decent shop space. Are you do you employ CNC over there, or is it routers and templates and stuff? Like, what's kind of
It,
your
it
tool set looking like?
it's all routers and templates. It's
Okay.
yeah, there's no CNC. I don't have anything against CNC. It's just don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for a little while, when I was working out of the house, there's a tech shop in town.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going up there and using some of their like bigger tools, like a fairly decent bandsaw for resawing tops, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of thickness sander, like a proper sort of
Sure.
two roll one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Very cool. Um, and then and how long have you been in this space?
The new space about a year, almost a year and a half.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Starting to get a starting to get a better picture. You mentioned, kind of about being. I forget, I'm trying. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think you said antisocial. And
Yeah,
maybe that wasn't the word you used. I don't want to.
I'm not particularly social. Like
Okay.
as far as as far as uh, it's mostly like having a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like time has become such a commodity
Mm-hmm.
that it's like time spent on the internet, or
Mm-hmm.
there's a fair few builders in town, and I kind of just know them, um, just through like Instagram messages, or
Yeah.
like the odd email.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to find time to to do adult out and about things.
Sure. Sure. Well, I only bring it up just kind of because I don't think I've ever seen a picture of you, or you know I don't see a lot of pictures of your shop, or you know other goings on. Your Instagram is largely how I know you, and that's largely
Right.
photos of your
I,
work, which is cool. I mean, I
right.
know a lot of guitar companies that do the same thing.
Right.
They don't get too personal, with things,
I mean,
but
I-
it's their Instagram is photos of the guitars, and that makes a lot of
right.
sense from a
Right.
certain standpoint. So,
Yeah, that was sort of, not like in a hard and fast way, but that was kind of by design. Like
mm-hmm,
I really, um, I liked industrial type things that I didn't know much about the person that built them.
mm-hmm,
And I liked that, wasn't really injecting like your own personality,
mm-hmm,
like, um, so that was part of it. And then after a point, it kind of just got funny. Like I had known some people, by way of Instagram, or
mm-hmm.
However, and they were like, yeah, I don't even know what you look like, and we've spoken so much like that, particularly like with Florian or with like August, we had emailed a bunch,
Yeah.
like some about spec stuff and some just about design stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think he's kind of the same way, but
A
there
little
was
bit.
a little bit of like didn't know what to expect. Like when I met Florian in Montreal, he was like, I was expecting like a big American person like that liked Abraham Lincoln a lot. And I'm like a smallish, like vaguely Middle Eastern looking, like, and I dressed like a homeless mod, and it apparently like didn't line up with Florian's expectations,
I've had
which
that
I just found
same
amusing.
experience with people.
Yeah, yeah. When they're like, "You build
We all
guitar,
get it.
you must be 10 feet tall,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "No, I'm just like a goofy person that sands too much," you know. And it's like also I met Knobs from Knobs Demos,
Hmm.
and it was very much the same thing where it was
Sure.
like it was like the joke had gone on so long that it was like it was worth preserving.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yeah. So we won't talk about what he looks like.
Right.
Um. Well, yeah, and I don't, I don't, I certainly don't mean to get too into too much of your personal details, but I do want to ask you a bit about, you know, you mentioned some design influences and stuff, and I want to get to that, but I also just kind of want to know a little bit of background in terms of going back to, when you first started kind of getting into music as a kid, and what were your, what were those early influences, and what was the music that was driving you towards, having any interest in the guitar at all?
Um, I think um, some of it is um, my dad had me listen to Tom Waits at probably too young of an age,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that sort of did something to my brain.
Okay.
And particularly like all of the Mark Ribot parts and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of um, the like all the clankiness of everything. Like there was never um, I had a very old dad who was born like in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was like a lot of you know big band, not really guitar centered stuff,
Mm-hmm.
combined with singer songwritery like Chris Christopherson, and like almost no classic rock.
Hmm.
So like the
Yeah.
idea of like it's you hear things, but there was never like we never listened to like AC/DC or
Mm-hmm.
Led Zeppelin like as a child. It was like um, it was just a lot of horns really, and then like really sort of angular Mark Ribot stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit of like, I don't know, would you say jazz at all or no?
yeah, a lot of jazz, and he was born in Ireland, so like the idea of like country western music was very much like a novelty to him. So there was a lot of like the like cowboys or whatever, it
Yeah.
was this alien idea. So there
That
was
American thing.
yeah. So there was like the Chet Atkins albums.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do remember like the Chet Atkins workshop album,
Mm-hmm.
getting obsessed with that. The single pickup, the like 6119 Gretsch.
Oh, that's one of my favorite guitars.
It's yeah, that's one of like if I were to go out and buy a guitar, like I would go look for that, you know.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. You and me
Um,
both. Those things are
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and they were kind of perfect, like the black pickguard was weird,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't have the bound F holes, like it
Right.
didn't. It
It was
was a
fairly
pretty tough looking
utilitarian,
guitar.
which is like
Yeah,
interesting for a guy like Chet Atkins who had other
right,
models with like gold hardware and
right,
some fancy features, and then and yet still more just, I mean, he was huge. He was so famous. He was the guy, he's friggin' Chet Atkins, and for
right,
him to have this signature model guitar that's really pretty stripped down and
right,
simple.
with like really no options,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the single bridge pickup, like I thought was, um, any of the single pickup guitars I had seen, they're all like sort of jazz boxes, like with like, the floating mini humbucker or something.
Hmm. Yeah,
Not
same.
saying that
I can
like
relate.
registered with me as, yeah, Not saying that like registered with me as like an 8-year-old, but it was
Hmm.
like it did seem different.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, it must have had
so
some
yeah,
kind
so
of resonance.
yeah, I think so. And so it was as far as music goes, it was mostly that. And then um, I have an older sister who was, you know, very much like this is what you're going to listen to. So
Like all
um,
good older sisters are.
yeah, no, she really did her job of when I was like, um, I don't know, like you're like 10 and you're like, I'm gonna buy a Sublime album, and she's like, no, like here's
That's a good
this is
sister.
yeah, she's like, this is the Smiths, this is Belle and Sebastian, um, stop, you know.
Yeah.
So again, so it was all sort of jangly, like not really um,
Hmm.
like guitar solo oriented music.
Yeah, interesting. So
That
did
that
that
might be a
stick, or did that kind of like evolve over time? And did you at some
um,
point in time, like, was
that
there a period where you found your own thing and you were like, oh man, I'm all about, I don't know, Alice in Chains or whatever the other thing that came in, or have you kind of always stuck with those early influences?
I think I kind of always have stuck with it again because it would again having a older sister doing her job, like as soon as things started to deviate one way or another, things were put back in check.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of also like I'm mostly a bass player.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so um, like like that I forget who I was talking to, but like the idea of like a Gibson SG like never really appealed to me because
Hmm.
um like I like it as a guitar, like it's a great guitar, like
Hmm.
but as far as like owning one, it was
Right.
always like what am I gonna do with this thing,
Yeah.
like it was I can't shred basically
But
is what it comes down to.
I can't either. So we're
Yeah,
like company over here.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Do you still did you get into playing music like as a regular thing? Did you start bands, and are you still doing that at all to any
uh,
degree?
I haven't played much the past couple of years, but it was I played bass for a long time um with a lot of bands, and then I played a lot of like upright bass, which was sort of easy to get gigs for because like 80% of that is just owning one.
Mm-hmm.
Like um, then you get to play. Um, so
I'm willing to haul
um,
this thing to gigs, so put me
yeah,
in your
yeah,
band.
it exactly. Yeah, like if you put that on yourself, it's um, so yeah, I played a lot of bass and then played some guitar in bands. Again, not very well, just like
Mhm.
noisy, clanky,
Yeah.
like you do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, like I still continue to do.
Yeah.
um but yeah, and so but was it kind of a thing? I know for me anyway, like when I started my business, when I started a company where I was making guitars, playing guitar really fell by the wayside. Like playing
Yeah,
guitar was only something that I did when I finished making a guitar, and then it was like, okay, now
right.
I have to go get back to my other orders. So that was like all the time, that I
Yeah.
spent playing. Has it been kind of mostly like that for you with the sort of like, the the business that you've got?
Yeah, very much so. Like I think that's a really fair assessment. It's like the more you work on guitars, for me, it's like the less time there's to play.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to like take a little bit of time to um, you know, actually play a little bit here and there, but
Yeah.
it's not always successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Still mostly bass, or are you also trying
Uh,
to kind of expand what you do with the guitar?
Actually less and less bass. Like
Really?
I'm it's mostly guitar
Oh,
now.
okay.
That's like some of that's sort of practical in that you can play an electric guitar at night without waking up the kid,
Hmm.
and as opposed to playing an upright bass in the kitchen and the whole house knows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I've kind of gone the other way with it, with like I basically always just was interested in electric guitar, did nothing but play electric guitar for,
right.
years and years and years. And then like early last year, um, like I got a wild hair up my nose that I wanted to play bass. Like, it just kind of
Nice.
came, it was probably influenced by music I was listening to at the time, but I just had this idea like I need to get a bass. It's got to be a P bass specifically.
Right.
I'm just gonna get a cheap Squire off Craigslist. I did that, and it was like, well, now I like playing bass. So I play bass more than I play guitar at all anymore. Kind of went the other
Do
direction with it.
do you find that to be like sort of refreshing?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think maybe what it is with bass, I feel like I'm good at it,
Right.
as opposed
Right.
to
No, there's like an immediacy.
uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
like 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 you just, like any Pixies bass line,
Yeah,
like you can just loop forever and ever and ever.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So so tell me about the design influences. Like, let's get to that a little bit because, like, well, let's okay. The old what came first, chicken or the egg question. But
Right.
what came first? Was it the design influences, or was it the idea that I'm gonna make a guitar? Like, how did that idea come into your head first of all, and then
Um,
how did like kind of try to walk me through that sequence of events?
well, I had ruined many instruments like since I was, you know, like like 13.
Uh-huh.
Just trying to do things to them. Like I remember like begging my mom for like a Squire P bass
Mm-hmm.
for like years and years and years and years. And then I finally got one when I was like 14 or 15,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately uh, cut the horns off
Cool.
because I was really really into Joy Division and wanted to
Nice.
make a teardrop something or other.
Uh-huh.
So that was sort of realizing that you could irreparably um, harm something and turn it into something else.
Yeah.
But it was also a good lesson learned. But aside from that, like I've been building for other companies pretty much since I was like 19.
Well, how did that happen?
Um, I got I went to like an arts high school
Okay.
for visual arts, and
With the goal
was
of doing what?
no real goal. Like
Oh,
art history, I think it was one
okay.
of those.
All right.
Um, like arts history or kind of painting, but it was um, I had this um, I sort of knew I was never gonna be like a particularly great painter, you know.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
I think I realized that early on, but it was
Mm-hmm.
it was something I was passably good at,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it, and it was like the art history more than anything else was interesting to me. Like I just liked that information. So anyway, I was sort of looking for an internship when I was like in between colleges, and I contacted King Double Bass when I was living in LA. Um, and I just asked them if they just wanted like an apprentice or an intern, just someone to help out around the shop because um, I just thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
And they were just nice enough to meet me and sort of ended up hiring me on. And I ended up staying there for like 6 or 7 years,
Hmm.
just building upright basses, and then they eventually kind of transitioned into electric guitars. So that's sort of kind of where I learned to do everything,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. I don't know. Jason, like the company isn't around anymore. It turned into a blast cult.
Okay.
Um, and they're still doing upright basses and guitars. Like a lot of it goes pretty much straight to the Japanese market.
Hmm.
But they're rad. Um, but yeah, Jason over at Black Cult basically taught me how to do everything.
Okay.
And the way that he went about doing it, like he wasn't like he had never really worked for another instrument company. He was very much like I'll go to the library, get a library book, figure this out, and it's fine. Like
Yeah.
there was no such thing as like a scary process,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Like for example, like the first guitar that they built, um, it was this neck through, hollow, like full depth hollow body, with the body orbiting the neck through part,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and it was this wildly ambitious, like it's like when you want to build a guitar, you build a telly,
Mm-hmm.
It's like what could go wrong?
Yeah. It's a slab.
But
Yeah.
no, yeah, no, but it was like we were, bending like with no experience, like building acoustics or arch tops. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
we were bending sides and doing the thing with like the heat gun going
Mm-hmm.
through a pipe,
Yeah.
and just nightmarish, horrible, like making laminations with that, the granulated glue and the vacuum bags, like, but like completely unqualified to do it.
Uh-huh.
And it worked out,
Yeah.
like I think eventually they went with just like a regular set neck instead of doing the
Yeah.
orbiting through body. But,
Right.
you know.
But they had an idea and wanted to try it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was one of those things like, you want to build a guitar, like you build a telly, like you should get some templates or you should get like a STU MacBook. And it was like we went and we got the Bob Benedetto book,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just like that was really shooting for the stars.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that book's got a little bit more opinion if infused
It
into
really
it
does.
versus the other
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
Yeah. So so you were in LA at the time. Was that, I mean, was that kind of where all of most of all this happened, where you grew up and everything? And then what,
Uh,
when did you end
I
up in
grew up in Chicago.
Austin?
I grew up in Chicago,
Oh,
and then I was in LA for about 10 years. One of those like threatening to finish college, but not actually doing it,
uh-huh.
and just working. And then moved to Austin, um, going on 9 years ago.
What was that move for?
It was just time to get out of LA.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those like we lived, um, where we lived. It was like they just kept buying the houses around us and knocking them down and turning them into fourplexes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I joke about like we moved because there was nowhere left to park on the street, but that's kind of what it was about.
Yeah.
There was just nowhere to park.
So you just kind of, was Austin just kind of like a place that you heard was nice, and so you thought you'd check it out?
Had come and visited. Like I had been in some bands that had toured through and like knew some nice people, and it just seemed like a easy place to live for a while. And then it just wound up being, um, just lovely. And yeah, I've been here like almost 10 years.
Hmm. Cool. Okay. So then how long ago was it that you set up shop and sort of
I set up
started in your
shop,
garage? Like, I'm gonna make some guitars now. Like, walk me
um,
through that.
shortly after, um, like it had been, when you work for other companies, like you keep, like, somewhere in your mind, you start threatening to build your own guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's true of everyone I've ever spoken to that's worked for a guitar company.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that had been brewing forever, and I had, um, always kept drawings, and but it just never really, you sort of wait for the perfect time to do something, and then that doesn't work out because of, you can spend years looking for like the right shop space, or like if you
Mm-hmm.
have like X amount of money in mind, to do something responsibly,
Yeah.
or just time, but it was, so my wife and I, we had the kid, and it just really seemed like I needed to do something, like do my own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just sort of the precipice for, and nothing was perfect. It was like didn't have a good shop space, like had hardly any money.
Mm-hmm.
I had some people, like I had run a repair shop here, with my friend Matt, who I'm still sharing the space with, and we just sort of like, we did good work, and we were always busy, and but it was just like freelance, sort of like just enough repair work to just to live.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was just time to stop doing that, and just try to do something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
bold for the sake of building something.
Mm-hmm.
And and between like working at King and just running, and just sort of, running that repair shop, I had worked for a couple of the companies, and you sort of, um, it's that thing of like, all of your output is sort of based on input, and you
Mm-hmm.
sort of see the way that people do things, and it like really wildly changes what the original plan was.
Yeah. Okay. So So you go to build your first guitar, and tell me about the guitar and some of your ideas with it. Like, were you trying to carve out a niche for your own unique thing, or were you trying to sort of like follow the status quo, which I doubt you were trying to do. Your guitars are really
I
unique, but
oh, thank you. I wasn't really. I had. It was one of those. Um, I feel like I was trying to like selfishly just build myself a guitar I want, you know.
okay, yeah,
And it was, and it wasn't, and it's, the guitars are very much fairly like hard on their sleeve as to what it is that they're influenced by,
hmm, sure,
And it was, I think the first guitar, like after abandoning like what was supposed to be like the, like this is kind of like um, this sort of second version of what I wanted to do like originally. But anyway, it was just that thing where you like combine a bunch of stuff you like Rickenbackers or Jazzmasters,
hmm,
Firebirds, and then just sort of stick them all together in a way
yeah,
that works for you.
hmm,
Um, which is, and some of that is it's, you know, like I've talked to so many people, um, when you love like some guitar that's just out of production, like Starcasters or Marauders,
hmm,
which I imagine you're fond of.
yes,
Um, and it just seems like this amazing thing that went by the wayside
hmm,
um, until they got reissued, or the Starcaster. But
right,
um, that was yeah. But that was really it. It was like I just wanted to build something that I wanted, and it was I had gone through a whole bunch of um, sort of Japanese like pawn shop like almost guitars,
hmm,
of just various offsets, and it's that thing of they would sort of look so cool, but were just not up to snuff
yeah,
with having like tiny necks or uh, the wood was disintegrating or something.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, for sure. Well, you've always brought your own sort of original design aesthetic to it. I mean, I think I remember the first one I saw of yours was like a Jazzmaster body shape, but it had this pick guard that was just like a this Art Deco V thing cut right through the center of it. It's like very not a Jazzmaster pickguard at all.
Right.
So is that coming from your, you know, your art school background? I mean, where would you
Uh,
say that comes from?
I think that was coming more from. I think there was some of that. Like I got very into sort of industrial design.
Hmm.
Just I just as something that I enjoyed.
Yeah,
And there was I just like the severity of things. Um, and that was like a I don't know. It was it's that thing of like when someone builds something that's like almost a Telecaster, and it's just like off. Like it's hard to like something has to get like so off to like there's like that's some certain percentage that something has to be like so off until it starts to look right again. You know?
yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like if you tweak
Yeah.
it just a
Like
tiny little bit, it just
right.
it looks weird.
Yeah. And like eventually you hit that like it's like not necessarily like it's so wrong, but it's just like you went past that weird part.
Hmm.
And also just sort of novelty things like I love Tron and you know just that weird um uh that sort of space future thing that didn't happen by now.
Oh yeah, so like vintage sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. That's right in my wheelhouse. Yeah, totally.
yeah. That like um yeah, like both sides of it, like weird the like retro futuristic 60s stuff and then the like very um like Russian 80s stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't know how old you are, but it sounds like we're both sort of, Cold War era kids.
Yeah, I'm 35 years old.
Okay. Yeah. So we're right there. I'm 36. So,
Yeah, nice.
um, wow, that's interesting. So after you started the company, like after you kind of started making those first couple of guitars, you know, was it just social media that you used to sort of like market yourself and kind of show off what you were doing? And then what was the reaction? How'd it go?
Um, it's I think I sort of just kept on lucking out. It was
Hmm.
like I think like based on doing repairs for so long here, like I did have the first few guitars sort of lined up to sell, um, just from people that had known me for a long time and were
Hmm.
sort of because it's a thing of there's so many good builders out there, but it's like getting someone to sort of take a chance on something um, that that you've never held in person is that's it's a scary thing for people, and I don't and it's whatever amount of money you're asking for, it's people worked hard for that, so it's I think it's difficult for people to give um, smaller like builders a chance on stuff,
Hmm.
but that's but yes, it was mostly social media, and I really lucked out with like a few players that sort of played them on like higher profile gigs,
Who were those
and
players?
I had met Dan from Wolf Parade. Like they were coming through Austin, and I sent him a message about, hey, did you want to play one of the guitars? They were playing like a radio show, and then they were playing a gig. And
Hmm.
he was kind enough to be like, yeah, bring it on by. So I got talking to him through that after they played it on that radio show, and he ended up he has two guitars now,
Hmm.
um, and I think as a result of that, through the like Guitar Tech Sound Guy, just word of mouth thing, there were like a few more bands that um, like the guitars have been sort of vouched for. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, um, like I was contacted by some other players that said they'd heard from like so and so that they were solid guitars,
Hmm.
um, and that helped a lot.
Cool.
And it's that it's that thing of I think I think as soon as like for me at least, it's when you see a guitar being played for someone by someone, it makes it like a little bit more real, you
Hmm.
know. Like
Yeah.
not necessarily like a band, but it's that like knowing that it's something you can play, like it becomes less abstract.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. I think that having good players out there with your stuff is really important. And I
Right,
know, like in my case, like I certainly had a few of those for sure.
right,
Um, but it seemed to always be kind of something that eluded me a little bit. It's especially with
right,
selling an instrument. When you don't know anybody that you can call up and say, hey, come down to the shop and play this guitar on camera for me.
right,
Like that
right,
becomes a whole thing of like, well, you're nobody can really even conceptualize that this thing does what you're saying it'll do,
right,
which seems like weird because I've shown that I can do that.
right,
Doesn't my reputation speak for itself? And then but people still kind of like hesitate, I guess.
right. I
So.
think I think some of that's just like having lucked out with deciding to do this in Austin, you
Hmm.
know. Like if I think if
Yeah.
they had not come through, like there wasn't like I could like number one, I couldn't afford to just like mail a guitar to someone and say
Hmm.
try it out, mail
Yeah.
it back. Like it was just like um it just happened to be that day in that place, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Austin's a great
So
city for music. I'm sure. I know Southwest just happened over there, didn't it?
it did.
Yeah. um did you catch any shows, or were you, or as a
I
as a
I
local, do you hunker down for that?
I kind of hunker down in like a grumpy old man way. I'm trying not to, but like this year I really had the excuse of like the company my wife works for had like events
Uh-huh.
throughout the week.
Yeah.
So I was on duty watching the kiddo.
Okay.
So I was very happy to not be down there.
Yeah.
But but I had a couple people come by the shop and it was nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
um well, yeah, location's important though, I think, for that sort of a thing. I know, part of my motivation for moving back to Portland was that I thought, well, if I do another guitar company, Portland's a better area for that.
Right.
Just bands actually come through here instead of
Right.
skipping right over it like they did in Sacramento. So
Right.
it's definitely important. So you have much better sort of potential for exposure where you're at.
Right.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think it was also the like some of the like the bigger bands that were playing the guitars were just like really nice people,
Good.
like really went out of their way to be like I would get emails from Dan being like, hey, I'm in Romania and like so and so, like I let him play the guitar,
Hmm.
and it just like really sort of goodwill,
Yeah.
um you know as opposed to just like I think um there's people that get guitars sort of thrown at them,
Hmm.
and they're not necessarily special,
Yeah.
like to that, like in their own, you know like it's just there's so many guitars.
Yeah. I mean, and I've had experiences with that too, where it's like an artist that breaks through at some point, and kind of gets
Right.
enough fame that now Fender is sending them all the free guitars
Right.
they can shake a stick at. So they
Right.
don't play the guitar I made them anymore,
Right.
and that, it's like I get it, I understand, but it does become that thing of like, where you're like, well, I mean, I did give you a guitar, or I've sold you a guitar, like you play it
Right.
sometimes, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
you know, I suppose that also depends on, if any of these artists are, you know, if you gave them a discount, or, if you've ever given a guitar away, or just if they paid full price, then that's a different story. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I mean, that's all. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those, I've heard lots of people have like varying opinions on that, you know.
Hmm.
And it's for me it's just sort of this pragmatic thing of like I just can't, like, in as much as I'd like to, like if Mark Ribot or something was like, hey, give me that, like I'd have to be like, I can't right now, man.
Yeah.
you know. Um
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, I hear you.
uh,
Yeah.
it's a tricky thing, and
Yeah.
you do get a lot of the like um I think perception's sort of an interesting thing
Hmm.
because it's like I'm like every day I'm like feel perpetually like lucky with like having an audience for these things that I'm making,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times like I'll get emails from people that think it's like it's like a team of guys cranking stuff out, and it's
Hmm.
literally like just me, like doing all the admin, like doing all the paint, like
Yeah.
literally doing everything,
Right. Right. Totally.
and it's you get those emails that are like, hey guys, I'm like such and such coming through. It'd be great if we get like two or three guitars.
Uh-huh.
And it's I don't know.
Yeah.
That's always it's always, it kind of sucks to be um, like it's not that kind of an operation.
Right.
On top of like that's very presumptuous of you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain circular file that some of those emails go into.
Right.
um, but speaking of like, like the good artists that you get occasionally that take your guitar and kind of put it in other people's hands. I know we have another mutual friend in Woody from Mastery Bridge.
Yes.
Um,
Lovely fellow.
yeah, no, I know that because he actually went and did some custom. Did he make the custom sort of pickguard plates for you, or did you make those and then he just sent you the vibrato guts? Like, how did that?
Oh, that was I made the, like, it started out as being like a all-in-one like metal pickguard,
Mm-hmm.
and then it ended up being like a recessed plate that goes underneath a pickguard.
Oh, okay.
Just because it was like aluminum wasn't sturdy enough to deal with kind of the torque on it, and then stainless steel was like really heavy.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
so, so it ended up being like a recessed plate underneath that long pickguard.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, but yeah, but I did those co-branded ones, which is like a very very wonderful.
Yeah. Did he contact you about that, or did you reach out to him?
I pestered him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't realize at the time it wasn't something like I thought you could like when I first saw them I thought it was like just something you could do, and then I talked to
Right.
him and he was like, yeah, that's something like I handpicked all those people.
Yeah.
Um, so then he was like, talk to me in a year, and then basically like a calendar year later, I was like, hey man, this is this is what I've been up to. If you ever wanted to revisit that, like no rush, no pressure,
Mm-hmm.
let me know. And he was sort of very gracious enough to be into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
But
That's interesting.
did you have a kind of a similar experience?
Well, yeah, he and I were pretty close friends for a pretty decently long time before he did those. You know,
Yeah,
we would just chat on the phone about life and stuff, like not
right,
even because we've both kind of for a long time been similarly minded, where it's like, yeah, guitars is kind of our career, but like we kind of do that for work in a way, you know, and
right.
our real loves are outside of work, and and
Yeah, he's
um
very well rounded.
yeah, it's very cool. But so we've kind of always been like that. So we just talk about things that have nothing to do with guitars half the time.
Right,
But yeah, when he did finally come around to decide that he wanted to do these co-branded vibratos, I think I was one of the first people that got offered. He just kind of he came right to me,
right,
and he said, "Hey, here's a thing I'm going to do. Like, are you interested? You'd have to commit to this."
right,
And we worked it out. So yeah, I mean, what reminded me of the connection there, that we both are fans of his, and friends with him, is when you mentioned artists going around and handing the guitar to other people, was that I made Woody one of my guitars. He wanted one of my models, and I made it for him, and he must have put that thing in the hands of, I mean, everybody. I got
right,
photos of that guitar with Nels Cline and Julian Lage and Bill Frisell, and um, you know, there's even a photo of Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, and that guitar is like sitting in the back.
right,
Like, I don't
right,
know if he ever actually played it, but it's there.
right.
Um, so it's kind of cool. But he was just one of those guys that was just like, would just try to, like, you know, show it off. Like, check this thing out. It's just
Right.
always really cool to have those people, in your life.
Yeah,
Those are like the best kind of like clients that you can have.
yeah, no, definitely. Like just like the like someone being like an advocate and like genuinely um like just putting out like just this really well-intentioned effort out into the world.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Sort of, and not for their own gain.
No, they're just good people.
Yeah, just genuine.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's been a lot of that. And it's
Good.
I would say that's you know
You,
80% of how it's worked out. It's just
yeah,
like nice people doing nice things.
a large part of the success that you've had.
Yeah.
Very cool. What we already kind of talked about, like, what your typical day looks like, but how many guitars are you making, like, at any given point in time? What's your volume looking like?
It's pretty low volume. Like I had been trying to like finish two guitars a month, and then maybe try to get orders in for like two additional every month. And then I had actually like I'm pretty backlogged right now, and like some of them are more backlogged than I'm comfortable with.
What's the wait
Just
times?
the wait time is averaging about 10 months.
Okay,
Um,
it's not
there's some
terrible.
like sort of it's it's there's the thing of like when you get to the point where people's enthusiasm starts to wane.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's always a bummer for me. But
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day who ordered like a EGC, and I think their wait time is like a year.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, yeah, I just forgot about it, and it showed up at my doorstep, and I was like, oh, awesome. And but yeah, 10 months is about average. Some like commission like new shapes or like weirdly complex ones have been a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's that I've tried really hard not to um, be in a position where I feel like I'm underwater with builds,
Yeah.
and um, life does have a way of like delaying the best laid plans.
Yeah.
But like for example, like when I met Florian last year, like we talked, it's just talking shop about how you go about doing things, and I think he was on at the time, I believe he was saying he was about like 18 months to 2 year wait,
Oh wow.
and he was like, yeah, I work at like three at a time, and then when they're done, I when they start to be close to done, I start the next three,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's one of those things that I felt like I should have been doing, like as opposed to like there was a period of time like towards the end of like my first year of being in business when I was like legitimately like got pretty swamped, like I had like 12 orders in or something.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind the way to handle that was work on all 12 at the same time,
Yeah.
in which case you get hands on a guitar for an hour to half an hour a day when you're trying to do everything, and then it's like the 40 to 60 hours of labor to do something stretches out forever.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to like when I had like four orders in, like the month, it was like a 4 month wait because it was that's a manageable amount of stuff to get done, and
Mm-hmm.
so I've been trying to do that more where it's like you know like this half a dozen guitars can wait. I'm gonna work on these three right now,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's just one of those efficiency things that I don't that should have occurred to me but didn't.
Sort of I mean, every business goes through, growing pains or goes through, like,
Yeah,
you always have a learning curve to anything that you try to do, and
right.
so it sounds like that was one of those things for you, and but so doing things in batches really is kind of how you felt like that was like sort of the solution for you.
It seems like it's been working better right now, and
Yeah.
also just the sheer um, the like psychic toll that it takes on you to like you see 12 guitars like 30 to 80% of the way done,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like I have to work on all of these today, like these
Mm-hmm.
all need to have progress on them.
Right.
um like it's I don't know, it's just like an hour a day on something doesn't push something very much forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
it becomes that whole thing about just starting too many things and not finishing enough things,
right, right,
and how you just have to finish stuff, get it out of the way, and then it's no longer taking up space in your shop, and then you have room
right,
to then you have room to start things, but you've got to
right,
finish something first.
right. And there's also the like I'm in that that window right now where it's like I could really use another person,
Oh, really?
but I can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like it's just on the verge where like just another set of hands doing milling wood or um rough cutting things
Yeah.
like would just save so much time. But
Mm-hmm.
it's to I guess a very long answer to your question is it's not crazy. It's not
Yeah.
like there's 80 guitars back ordered or something.
Right. Right. Right.
It's try like very consciously to keep it manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. We have another mutual friend, I think, in Ken from Roadhouse Pickups.
Ken is the best.
Yeah, I've noticed you using a lot of his stuff. Where did you hear about him?
I actually heard about him from you.
Oh, really?
Like yeah, you had posted something, um, and I just hadn't heard of the company, and then it was like immediately upon seeing what he made, it was like um, they were just like like modern versions of my favorite pickups,
Yeah.
and like the fact that he didn't even make humbuckers really
Hmm.
was amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like just not even dealing with PAFs was I felt very sort of kindred.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the guy, I think, for all that.
Yeah,
He's very cool.
yeah, and he's been very very helpful with um, um, like needing them by a certain time or doing
Hmm.
something like really 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 weird. Um,
Yeah,
I think I think you saw those purple sparkle pickups
I
that he
did.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm I'm very excited to get that guitar finished and to have those in there.
Yeah, you're the sort of very fortunate recipient of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't even take credit for that idea. It was I imagine you know Vanessa
Yeah. Yeah.
from, yeah. So
Vanessa
it was
Wheeler.
just, yeah, she just purple sparkle everything. So I think I just lucked out to be the one making that. Um, it was very much her
Yeah.
call and everything.
Yeah. Speaking of sparkle finishes, what kind of a finish are you using?
It's Polly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, like, from
And
where do you get it from, and what's the
it's a
sort
lot
of
of
details on that?
like House of Colors or like
Okay.
Paint Huffer, Metal Flake,
Okay.
um, or like um, what is it called? It's escaping me. Um,
It's like
can't think
TCP
of.
Global custom shop stuff.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's the usual.
Yeah, the Euro
But
clear
yeah,
that they try to sell every guitar maker on.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
It's good stuff
Yeah,
actually. I really like that. Yeah.
it's good. I've cycled around to so many different clears.
Hmm.
It's clear's the worst. Although I did finally find a primer I liked.
Oh, really?
So that was all sorted out before.
Which one is
Like,
that?
um, it's this company out of Corona,
Uh-huh.
Simtech.
Oh, Simtech. Okay, sure.
Yeah, that clear primer.
Oh, they make a clear primer?
They make a clear primer, and it's actually for like high end dashboards and caskets,
Oh, wow.
and it's amazing because it's like you can clear over binding.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well,
Yeah,
is it a urethane or polyester or what is it?
yeah, yeah. It's a urethane. It's like a two
Urethane?
part.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I am gonna have to
and
try that. Taking
it's
notes now.
I'll send you a link.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and it's a small company. You have to call and talk to a guy on the phone, but
Yeah,
it's a very good primer.
it's kind of the best when you have to call your order in.
Right, it's like calling Lindy Fralin like 10 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are right at about the hour mark here, so I'm going to keep you on the line,
Okay.
and we're going to keep talking. But I'm going to sign off the show uh, by saying thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. Really enjoyed speaking with you.
Likewise, and I think maybe we'll check back in with you in a year or so, and maybe we'll see you at some guitar shows. Um, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Hope to run into you soon.
Definitely. All right. So to everybody listening, thanks and goodbye.